Boxing news!
Ow! Okay, we'll start with this. July 16th, fresh off that loss to Serrano in Denmark, Nina Meinke is going to be returning to action against an opponent that has yet to be announced. You know, that really was Nina's best bet at winning a world title in this division because she doesn't stand much of a chance against the likes of Erika Cruz, WBA champion from Mexico. She surely doesn't stand much of a chance against this division's apex predator, Amanda Serrano, who's going to be in action very soon against Argentina's own Brenda Carbajal, and we're going to be talking about that.
For Nina, a fight with Serrano was her best bet at becoming a world champion at this time.
It was because Serrano Food's experience level is very similar to Nina's. Serrano was coming off a lengthy stint of inactivity, and that way Nina was catching her at a very opportune time, and it didn't work out the way I said it wouldn't work out. I picked Serrano Food to win a points decision. I picked Sarah to retain the blue belt, the IBF title. So here we have Nina Meinke, a serviceable fighter on the rebound, set to lock horns with an opponent that has yet to be announced in a six-rounder, a rebound fight. Thus, I expect a rebound kind of opponent.
Nina Meinke is not a bad fighter.
She is still a serviceable fighter, and she's experienced, having shared the ring with the likes of Katie Taylor, Elena Thiessen, Sarah Mahfoud more recently. That experience makes her useful.
There are still fights out there for Nina Meinke.
Beyond this upcoming rebound fight set to go down on the 16th of next month, I wouldn't mind seeing Nina Meinke versus Raven Chapman. I'm very high on Raven Chapman, who fights under the BT Queensbury Promotions banner, an unbeaten fighter sporting a professional record of 3 wins, no losses, and no draws. An experienced fighter like Nina Meinke is the ideal opponent choice for a Raven Chapman to garner some experience of her own. Being honest, if they did make a fight like that, I'd favor Raven to win the fight.
I don't want to sound too harsh, but it's a harsh sport.
It's a hurt business, and that's what Raven Chapman likes to do. She likes to hurt people. She likes to hurt the girl opposite the ring. I think Nina Meinke would be an ideal choice for an unbeaten up-and-comer like a Raven Chapman that needs experience. I think the same rings true for Matchroom's own Australian import, Sky Nicholson.
Sky Nicholson versus Nina Meinke makes sense somewhere down the line.
The same rings true for the United Kingdom's own
Carbajal, medalist.
Olympian. She's supposed to be making her professional debut this weekend as part of a Sky Sports boxer show. A couple of fights down the line, Nina Meinke versus Karis Artingstall makes a lot of sense because these particular 3 unbeaten up-and-comers, these are the kinds of up-and-comers that in the very near future are going to be looking to garner experience with experienced professional fighters, and that's what Nina Meinke is.
Now she's going to be looking to rebound off the loss to Sarah Mahfoud next month.
And we'll see who they put Nina Meinke in there with. Just in keeping with the theme of featherweight news and all things featherweight, it's official. Jake Paul is going to be taking on Tommy Fury, and on the undercard of their fight, we're going to see Amanda Serrano return to action against an opponent I didn't expect. I didn't expect that it would be Argentina's own Brenda Carbajal that Amanda ends up fighting. I was expecting a champion to be opposite the ring, Amanda. A champion like Amanda's a champion. I was expecting Erika Cruz, if I'm being honest.
Erika Cruz, who holds the WBA title, she posted something on her social media about returning to action in August.
And initially, when I saw that, I thought to myself, if Amanda's coming back in August and so is Erika, maybe they'll be unifying with each other. But alas, that's not the case.
The other 2 champions at this weight aren't making it easy for Amanda to unify.
They're not. In this fight with Brenda Carbajal, the WBO's interim champion, Amanda Serrano being the WBO's full champion at this weight, this fight certainly isn't on the scale, size of Amanda's previous fight with Katie Taylor. The story is that the Serrano people chose to walk away, chose to do their own thing, and I would have been okay with that if it would have resulted in a unification match.
But it didn't.
Which is unfortunate. Brenda Carbajal has campaigned anywhere between featherweight and lightweight. That's either 126, 130, as high as 135 pounds.
She's experienced.
2 years younger than Amanda Serrano, sporting a professional record of 18 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw, 9 knockouts. She's never been stopped. Tough Argentinian slugger. Being shared the ring with the likes of Lisbeth Crespo, former WBO champion Johanna Belén Alfonso, former WBO champion of Brazil Rose Vellante, former IBF champion Marcela Acuña of Argentina,
Denmark's own IBF champion Sarah Mahfoud, who we just talked about.
Brenda's been around the block, and you have to compete at a certain level in order to beat Brenda Carbajal. And believe you me, Amanda Serrano's on the level. She is more than on the level.
Now, Brenda Carbajal's never been stopped, and I don't know for sure that Amanda's gonna stop her.
Brenda, like Amanda, has spent some time well above the featherweight limit, the featherweight division. Those Argentines, they're tough.
It's not a foregone conclusion that Amanda knocks her out, but at minimum, she can win a points decision.
At minimum, I think she can do that. And what she decides to do beyond this, your guess is as good as mine. Do they intend to revisit the Katie Taylor fight, the Katie Taylor rematch, or do they want to continue to try and unify this division?
Like I said, the other champions at this weight aren't making it easy for Amanda.
Because Brenda is this division's WBO interim champion, you get the sense that in many ways Amanda is satisfying her mandatory challenger. I know of no mandatory actually being ordered by the WBO, but in many ways this would satisfy such an order if one came down. As stated, the fight between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury is official, and let's hope that nobody ends up pulling out this time. We know that Big John Fury took to social media and expressed some issues, travel issues for himself, for his son Tyson. They won't be able to be there with Tommy Fury for this fight. That caused some hubbub, some bluster. We talked about it here on the channel yesterday.
But the fight is a go.
You have to wonder if everything we've seen from Team Fury and Team Paul the last 24 hours was a bit of theatricality in order to help sell this fight, or was it genuine? Were there genuine concerns, genuine issues that not all of the Furies would be able to be there for Tommy? And
was the fight really in jeopardy? It was all of that stage.
Might have been, might not have been. I mean, they did try to get this fight over the line once before, and it fell apart.
It's an even contest, an even matchup.
Jake Paul, he's a little older than Tommy Fury, though Tommy, as a professional boxer, he is a little bit more experienced. He's got one or two more pro fights than Jake Paul does, and all of those fights are against pugilists, not MMA fighters crossing over into the sport.
Certainly not against social media influencers.
I'm not trying to talk up Tommy Fury's quality of competition, but what I am saying is the 8 professional bouts he's had as a professional boxer all came against other professional boxers. Not mixed martial artists looking for a payday, and not social media influencers who don't know a right cross from a crosswalk.
Proper jab from proper 12.
What the hell is proper 12?
Conor McGregor's Irish whiskey.
Neither guy is very good to the eye. Neither guy possesses the characteristics and properties you look for in a blue-chip prospect, in a fighter that could go all the way but is in the early stages of their career. Neither Jake Paul or Tommy Fury has the characteristics of a blue-chip prospect. In truth, based on ability and ability alone, if not for Tommy Fury's namesake, nobody would be talking about this kid or his boxing.
No, not based on ability alone.
Didn't look good in the Jordan Grant fight. Didn't look good in the Anthony Taylor fight.
And I skipped the Daniel Basianski fight.
Tommy Fury is supposed to be the distinguished pugilist, after all, not the social media influencer invading the sport of boxing. If anybody's supposed to be the according to Hoyle boxer here, it's Tommy. But Tommy himself, Tommy Fury, ain't nothing to write home about. It's Jake Paul, the social media influencer, that has been looking the part and racking up the highlight reel knockouts over basketball player Nate Robinson, out-of-shape wrestler, MMA fighter in Ben Askren. More recently, a highlight reel knockout, Tyrone Woodley, in their second fight, their rematch. At minimum, you can say that Jake Paul's got some mustard on that right hand, and if he lands on Tommy, well, it certainly would go a long way towards legitimizing Jake Paul's claim as a serious pugilist, a serious prize fighter, a serious boxer, if he can knock out a serious boxer, quasi-serious boxer in Tommy Fury, more or less, as sometimes Tommy Fury just seems like a reality star that's moonlighting as a boxer.
It's a circus, I know, but I think people want to see how it ends.
The guilty pleasure. Will Tommy Fury be the one to chase the circus out of town, or will Jake Paul legitimize himself as a serious boxer in front of the eyes of his...
Jake Paul's teen and tween followers, they're not boxing purists, you understand.
They may not have the same reservations about these kinds of novelty and circus fights as either I or you, though I will admit, this fight has sparked my curiosity. There's a lot of bragging rights involved in this thing.
It's bad optics for the Fury family if one of their boys ends up losing to a goddamn YouTuber.
So much for the fighting Furies, right?
Right.
It's bad optics for Tommy if he fumbles, if he falters. It's bad optics for the whole Fury family if one of their kin ends up losing to a goddamn social media influencer. There's a lot on the line for Tommy. Reputation. How would he be viewed moving forward if he were to lose this fight? Even worse, what if he ends up like Tyrone Woodley?
He might be a fury, but Tommy ain't no Tyson.
It is a mildly intriguing situation. I can admit to that.
And I imagine that Tommy being a fury, of the Fury namesake, that's going to be a big part of the marketing.
You've got to admire Jake Paul's confidence, because this is the second time he's attempted to make a fight with Tommy Fury, and they've managed to at least get that fight over the line. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, injury and illness, the fight is on.
And Jake must like his chances against Tommy because he never had to afford him another shot to begin with.
But he did. August 6th. Heads are going to roll.
I won't lie to you, I am interested in how this thing ends.
And finally, the feud continues as to which fight is in fact the bigger fight. Canelo versus Golovkin 3 or Spence versus Crawford. Resident boxing insider Ron Katz asked, why even compare the two? Both are great events that will do well for all involved. Can't we just leave it at that? After all, it's not a competition.
Not a competition, these are competing platforms.
Resident snake oil salesman Leonard Ellerbe said, Ron, he's just trying to bring attention to a fight that nobody cares about. It's an old school tactic that's played out, and he hasn't caught on that nobody in the U.S. cares. It works in the U.K., but not in the U.S., LOL. This is just a hot take to get some people riled up, and honestly, he's doing his job. He knows nobody cares about this fight. Nello just lost, and he did 120,000 buys combined on cable and satellite in the U.S. I repeat, 120,000 combined with a 9 million live gate, and that's a fact. This is just promotion.
And never mind the other 540,000 pay-per-view buys by way of the streaming app.
If you let Lenny tell the story, all the pay-per-view did was 120,000 pay-per-view buys. And what he's not telling you is that it did another 540,000 by way of the DAZN platform, as there were two pay-per-view distributors for Canelo versus Bivol.
We talked about it several times here on the channel.
Leonard relies on the ignorance and stupidity of the masses to hoodwink them into believing his particular brand of bullshit. Twitter user that goes by the name of Pidge said, conveniently only quotes cable and satellite figures for a fight that was primarily on a streaming platform, to which Leonard Smellerby replied, you know zero about the business of boxing and the numbers. Canelo's popularity and numbers have declined since he left Golden Boy and HBO, but he definitely got the bag, and I respect that. Canelo just did 120,000 on satellite and cable in the United States. I repeat, that has never happened. Do you know how bad that is?
No, but I know how desperate you are that you're lying about all this stuff and expecting us to believe it.
If Canelo Alvarez's popularity has in fact declined over time, then why did your people offer him more money than you offer your own fighters?
The Caleb Plant fight was just last year, and what did you offer that guy, $40 million?
$40 million up front for a fighter that you say isn't popular anymore, whose popularity is declining. Well, you could have fooled me how much money you guaranteed that guy.
Do you normally guarantee those dollar amounts to guys whose popularity is declining?
Pidge responded by saying, I follow a lot of boxing and social media, UK and US, and I saw a lot of anticipation for the fight. Ultimately, I don't care how many buys it did. My point was suggesting 120,000 total is disingenuous, to which Leonard replied, no it wasn't. Someone wants to shoot the messenger and overlook the facts. Bottom line is EJ versus Bud is the fight that people want to see. Dude is just trying to bring attention to a fight that the diehards don't care about.
Diehard fans don't make a big fight. Casuals do.
Casual fans, casual boxing fans that only show up for big fights involving big-name fighters. It's casual fans that stimulate the revenue stream, not diehards.
Diehards are the guys that follow guys like Kayaguchi and Chocolatito.
Good fighters, though not top earners, and none of them command an audience the size of the audience that showed up for Canelo versus Saunders.
Everybody knows in boxing, it's not diehards that stimulate the revenue stream, it's the casuals, the casual boxing fan.
Casually only shows up for big-name fights with big-name fighters. Everybody knows that, including Leonard.
Leonard, who claims that nobody watches fights on a streaming app.
At a time when linear television is fast becoming a thing of the past, and pretty much everybody out there has their own streaming app. ESPN and Showtime included, not to mention very popular streaming apps like Netflix and Hulu.
Streaming apps aren't some new thing that just hit the market, you know.
And in truth, neither is DAZN. It's been some years since they debuted in America, and since then, some very big fights fights, big moments in the sport of boxing, all happened on DAZN. Anthony Joshua's shock upset loss to Andy Ruiz.
You're trying to convince me that people didn't know about that nobody saw it.
And no one saw him get his revenge in a rematch that was even bigger than the first fight was. You're telling me nobody saw Teofimo Lopez get knocked around by George Kambosos. That's what you're telling me.
You're full of shit.
Canelo Alvarez's popularity is declined. According to Leonard Ellerbe, it's declined over time. I guess it's declined so much that you guys are offering him more money to fight on your platform than you offer your own fighters, with no commitment.
Let me see if I understand this. He's getting more money up front these days.
He's getting more money guaranteed these days than he used to years ago. And some of that money came from you guys. And what you're telling me is that his popularity's declined. Well, you never would have known it how much money you offered him last year. How much more money you offered him to continue fighting on your platform against your fighters like Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez. This is reality. Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, those are two of the most sought-after fighters anywhere at or around these weights. And the ones seeking them just so happen to be PBC fighters. PBC fighters that can't draw what Canelo Alvarez draws, don't make what Canelo Alvarez makes. PBC fighters that don't draw what Gennady Golovkin draws and don't make what Gennady Golovkin makes. Do you think any one of them would get $14 million up front to fight the likes of a Steve Rolls?
I got nothing against Crawford versus Spence as a fight, but you're lying to yourself if you think that fight's bigger than Canelo versus Golovkin 3.
The only reason that Leonard's carrying on like this is because he himself, as a U.S.-based promoter, has never staged a fight this size in the U.S. It bakes his noodle that a Brit,
a guy that started out in the U.K., is going to do a bigger show in the U.S. than any show he's doing this year.
That's why he can't shut the fuck up about what Eddie Hearn is doing and what this fight is going to do commercially. Deep down inside, he knows it's the bigger fight.
Hurts, don't it?